So hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the panel. Very happy to have with me both Arvidas and Thomas. I am Cristobal Alonso. I'm the CEO of Startup Wise Guys, likely the largest accelerator by now almost in Europe, and a proud investor in the Baltics, running a fund in Lithuania and a fund in Estonia. But we're not here to talk about me, we talk about climate, about sustainability. Thomas, Arvidas, I will ask you guys to introduce. Arvidas, we start with you. But apart from introducing yourself, what is a climate startup? What will be your best? So each of you kind of say, what is your best definition to ground the discussion about what do you understand? Because there is not a clear definition about a climate startup.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so hello everyone. Super happy to be here with such a good company. So starting with maybe Catalysta Ventures, where I'm from. So we are having two kind of different streams. One of them, we are working with early stage sustainable startups. And by sustainability, we mean triple top line. So people, planet, and profit. Three keywords. And the second activity we do is corporate innovation. So we have big organizations with their innovation strategies, starting with sprints, hackathons, also corporate accelerators as well. And briefly about me, so I started kind of my innovation journey and startup journey like 7 years ago, working in a big organization. Quickly understood that, I want to be outside of big organization, to be like a startup, and here I am. I joined Catalysta Ventures. And last 2 years, I'm working in more or less corporate innovation field. So trying to match startups, B2B startups with corporates. That's kind of what I do. And you also wanted to kind of talk about climate startups already, yeah, in a sense. So I guess we can discuss it later on a bit. But for me, I mean, I really love this kind of way. That's why I joined Catalysta Ventures with triple top line. So people, planet, and profit. So if we talk at least about planet thing, I also kind of, understand also profit part. And I think that's very two crucial parts which needs to go together. So I really love this kind of dual thing coming together, and then we can discuss it later on. So for me, it's this part of equation.
Good, thank you. Thomas?
Sure. Look, so Cristobal, Arvidas, pleasure. And Cristobal, thanks for moderating. Great to be here. Fantastic initiative. So I'm a partner at the Contrarian Ventures. It's an early stage venture capital fund focused on two verticals. One is energy technology, and another one is electrification of the mobility industries. And the way we see it, both of these converging and meeting somewhere in the middle, for example, an electric vehicle charging infrastructure and stuff like that. So we look at the startups operating exactly in this space. We'll look at the startups based in Europe only, the whole Europe and Israel. We've been around since 2017, 2018. 2018, we made the first investment. And now we have 16 portfolio companies across Europe. So we have 4 companies in the UK in smart thermostat spaces, disaggregator spaces, electric bike optimization spaces. We have a company in Israel in the hydrogen electrolysis space. We have a few drone companies in France and the Baltics that looks at the infrastructure inspection, automation, as well as we have carbon credit startup based in Norway. So we all over the place. We based primarily in Vilnius in Lithuania. Our limited partners come from here, but we definitely don't fully focus on the Baltics, though Baltics and Lithuania are very, very important to us. We invested in a number of companies here. So we are very much plugged into the sustainability, sort of implicitly plugged into the sustainability dialogue and impact. And sometimes we even forget about it because that's the only startups we look at, right? We never look at fintech or e-commerce or marketplaces or anything like that. So it's all implicit, but at the same time, we're going another step deeper to really sort of trying to to see look at the data and see how much of the sort of CO2 is being extracted and stuff like that. So before that, I was working in London for 7 years in the various roles in finance, most in the corporate finance world as an investment banker, and then for the last 2 years I've been doing this. And to try to answer Cristobal's question on what is a climate tech, what is a climate startup, for me, sort of, it's very much sort of you go through all the things in the middle and really sort of end up at the end of sort of, hey, what's the direct CO2 impact on the planet from this exact technology or the startup, so you can, in some startups, you can easily, it's easier to quantify it. I've seen, Tesla can say, look, 3 megatons or whatever CO2 has been left outside of here because of our cars. And some startups is much harder, especially in the very early stage. But at the end of the day, this is the way we look at it, though it's not as simple.
Is that kind of almost building on that one already? Is that a metric on the fund? So I'm both also, Arvidas, we can go for you, like, a normal fund will look at return on investment. They might have some kind of specifications, some of the impact ones they're trying to put. So somebody related to climate to sustainability, what kind of KPIs beyond return of investment can be measured, right? Because at the end of the day, we're looking at, so how do you measure that your portfolio is more sustainable or has a bigger impact on climate than others, right? For example. So how are you measuring that, Thomas? I go you first because you have it, but Arvidas, we can basically build on that one afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. So, for us, again, I would say it's pretty easy. Some companies, like the company called Choose in Norway, what they do is basically they do a lot of things, but one simple thing is you can say, if you fly Norwegian Airlines and, fly London to New York business class, there's going to be X of tons of CO2 that plane or yourself during the journey will consume. So, and you can easily offset using that platform because they buy carbon credits and they invest in, let's say, solar panel farms or wind farms somewhere in Bangladesh or other emerging countries. And, you can easily say that, okay, so they're consumers or buyers of those credits have bought, X tons of credits. Here's the answer. In some is more difficult. So we don't have one overarching KPI for our startups. Every startup has their specific KPIs. This could be from units of smart thermostat installed in the community houses, or a number of megawatt hours charged for the electric vehicles, or the miles driven by the delivery drivers. So we have the startup called Bold Bikes, based out of Australia, UK, and Silicon Valley, and they've done already their couriers using those bikes and the software done already 2 million trips of deliveries, including of those electric bikes, really saving enormous amount of CO2 from the emitting to the planet. So, specific KPIs, we don't have one general for the fund, even though we are one of the few funds that sort of fully offset the CO2 emissions in our part of Europe using our own portfolio company Choose, but there's definitely more. We have done it before.
Okay, Arvidas, how are you looking at this when you're looking at investments early stage?
Mm-hmm. I'm coming back to, again, this triple top line kind of part. So we are looking to these 3 parts, and from investment part, it's very easy, kind of, from people, profit, and planet. So from planet perspective, usually, in the end of the day, it's easiest way to count CO2 emissions. I totally agree. Even though, there are some other measurements as well, and we are kind of going for positive kind of impact. So it's kind of hard to say, but let's take one example as well. We also worked with a Tingly startup, which is kind of international gift experience startup. So, with that one, we had different targets. So one of them, it was to kind of, as people are doing some activities, so we wanted to kind of offset every activity with CO2 kind of thing. So we did it. But at the same time, if startup have some kind of, manufacturing things, however, or they are using some kind of, plastic or something else in their distribution channels. So we try to eliminate that as well. So for them, exactly, it was a package which was not sustainable in the beginning. So we changed that kind of, we help them to change this kind of part as well. So, it's usually we are trying to go through all the chain of a startup and see, if anywhere is the negative impact, we try to eliminate that. The same with people. So if it is in social part, so usually, in Lithuania, maybe startups is not so common, but if we go and talk about people who are kind of distributing things, or buying things, or doing some things in Africa or in other countries, so the social part can be also very important. So, all three parts, kind of, people, planet, and profit, we aim to be positive. So not negative, not even neutral, but positive. That's the goal. And I agree with Thomas, it's super hard to count one kind of measurement. Well, probably, everyone knows CO2, so it's easiest, I agree. But it's not the only one.
Is there a specific profile of founder, right? So we are both coming from the investment point of view. They want to go there. Is there something different that you notice, Thomas, when investing in this type of startups versus your regular startup? Do they think differently? Do they actually have more trade-offs to make on their process because of the focus on being sustainable? Or once you have this purpose, you kind of treat them as a normal founder, let's say, all the way?
Absolutely. Look, for me, it's a bit harder to compare. I all the time I've been investing was in the folks working in these spaces, but it's really, I think it's really normal. I think the folks we invest, we have our LPs gave their money to us to allocate capital into the financial return maximizing startups. So that's what we do. We know. We don't do any social projects, so we really look at everything business model and the margins and stuff like that. And the founders, the absolute normal. I don't think. I think there's post the clean tech 1.0 boom and bust in 2005, 2006 and onwards in the US mostly. I think we got this now clean tech 2.0, but clean tech is obviously a part of the whole sustainability things, and a lot more things are involved in it. But I think, given the amount of exits that we've seen in variety in battery storage, EV charging infrastructure space, battery spaces, and both in Europe and US, I think everyone realized now, look, there's money to be made in the VC world investing in clean tech. So you got the founders, maybe the only, or no, I would say probably most of the successful startup founders will have that passion, but most of the founders we have in our portfolio company have a huge passion for the clean tech. So, bunch of them, if they afford, they drive Teslas, they have smart homes, if they can have the opportunity to have it and stuff like that, and really care about the planet. But the backgrounds that we get, it's a variety of them. The Choose company, a carbon credit company in Norway, the guy's an ex lawyer for 15 years, but he's been interestingly in oil and gas industry. So really seeing the, sort of the folks that we co-invest with, because now we co-invest with Shell and BP, which before we're seeing, oh my God, these are the black oil folks. It's not great, but now they massively shifting to the renewable energy, and they have huge corporate venture funds to back it up. So other founders have been in the industry doing something else technically in some of the large corporates like Bosch and stuff, and now decided to go and do a battery startup because they've seen the difficulties that the customers been having. So a variety of founder profiles. They have a definitely passion for clean tech and cleaner planet, but they all I think most of them do think about potential exit, making some money in and doing good for the planet. So I think that's sort of overarching thematic.
And you, Arvidas, have you noticed this kind of doing good for the planet almost gives extra drive to those founders? Or in a way, that's part of who they are. But you have seen a bit of everything.
Mm-hmm. So there are two types of these people. I would say one of them, yeah, I totally agree with Thomas. If it is a bit later stage, we call later if people already have traction, so it's already later stage. So in that stage, usually, I mean, people already kind of, I would say, we're regular ones. So we understand the business perspective and what we also maybe see, and I guess it's also important topic to touch a bit, that there are lots of super early stage kind of startups and with solo founders who have very crazy ideas, and they want to be super sustainable, but they don't think about business yet, and that's also our goal in some of the projects, to help them, as we participate in lots of these kind of super early stage, I would say, competitions, hackathons, and so on. And I see that every 10th of these kind of crazy green people, kind of in the way that they are kind of even don't think about business in the beginning, they are kind of transforming to that regular founder. So this is another angle, I would say, that there are kind of either regular business.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, I would say that, even the startups who are not sustainable today, which we also see very much often, and they kind of, think about scaling. We start talking with them, we start kind of, seeing other partnerships, other investments, maybe later stage, and they understand when it's needed thing for them as well, if we want to move forward. So, it's also, I would say, if a founder is smart, they are, early or later, they will move to that direction as well. And the later you do it, the more costly it will become.
Is not there a difference between becoming sustainable versus becoming impactful, right? Because I could see how many startup founders, as the startup evolves, they try to have more impact. But there is certain industries that you can just not be sustainable even if you want to, meaning that cannot be the objective of what drives you, right? But I think they can all have impact through providing good employment, fair opportunities, passion-driven education. There's a lot of things you can do, right?
Yeah. Sorry, Arvidas, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's why it's beyond probably climate. I totally agree.
Yeah.
We're also talking about these people, profit, and planet. So three things. So actually, yeah, sometimes you can't kind of build something for the planet. But we also have examples when you are, going for profit, but also creating some kind of nice thing for the planet. Like one startup we worked in a recent project, EcoDrena. I mean, they create a smart drainage system for farmers. And it helps farmers to save lots of money because of kind of keep water and so on. At the same time, it saves rivers and other kind of water bodies up to 40% of pesticides. So it's kind of one extra thing we managed to do, and now we can kind of accomplish both parts. But yeah. I totally agree that it don't need to go all the time through.
Yeah, and if I just, Crystal, I might just add, we see this sustainability versus impactful as just such an important discussion. I think sometimes people or companies sort of overdo it. If there's a microfinance company helping consumers in Bangladesh, it's not like they need to build now solar panels on the rooftop to suddenly be carbon neutral or carbon positive. There's they're already doing a very impactful thing. Or Revolut, obviously they do emit a lot of probably CO2 during their servers work, but it's still a company that serves some sort of purpose. So I think sustainability, especially these days, have become sort of very hot word for everyone wants to be a part of it, and there's a lot of this greenwashing, as we see now industry, about announcements every day from the big corporates of sure we are a green company and we do this and do that, but really need to look
at why is that I think because the UN goals have been there for times, the climate discussions, big conference and between countries have been there almost for a decade, I would say, almost on the mainstream. Why suddenly, everything is sustainability, right? In the last, 6 to 9 months, is this COVID and people start thinking about this more seriously? So what's happening right now that everything is sustainability almost, again, I think the point was even beyond impact, which I think in my view could be as important or more even than sustainability.
Yeah.
So what's happening right now? Anything is very specific?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's a good point. I think there's a few factors. COVID definitely played a big role. I think once people seen the clear skies through their flats, like, oh crap, this could be, a sky without the smog, like in China or larger cities like London. So I think people maybe felt more sort of obliged to do something about it. But I think we've seen a lot of that even before the COVID from last year, from big announcements in World Economic Forum by the founder of Larry Fink of BlackRock, making a huge corporate announcement how they're not going to fund, not going to invest in some of the asset classes that work with fossil fuels and stuff like that. And I think a lot of it is that it sells. We got the new generation of consumers that care more about things, about sustainability, impactfulness, taking care of the planet and other people. So, hence a lot of this greenwashing. Everyone wants to be a part of it. Now, sort of, it's not like it's a good thing that you just do it or announce something. It's really bad if you don't do it. So everyone's just rushing to be sure. Look, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all of these large corporates that were financing fossil fuel industries and making millions out of it suddenly find a small loophole and say, look, we will not finance this particular thing, and they announce it over all social media and everyone picks it up. And then actually, if you look at the details, it's going to be like the impact will be meaningless. It's going to be very, very small. So I think it sells to public markets, to the retail shareholders, maybe some of the pension funds that are investing in those corporates. If they see an announcement, sure, great, that checks a box and that's it. Truly impactful companies, there's definitely much fewer than what people probably imagine there is once they read some articles.
Arvi, the same question, but as you're talking also to corporates in Baltics and Lithuania, what's happening right now? So what is changing right now in people's minds to want to talk and do more about it?
So yeah, from one point of view, I mean, I just remember, maybe 5 years ago, even when I worked in a bank, it started in Scandinavia, and it was due to kind of upcoming regulations, which I think that, banks saw it coming, and we started to talk with their big customers, big corporates, about this issue, about how that they will not kind of give some loans, they will not kind of invest in these companies, even they will not kind of, they will not do, not even promote, but de-promote, I would say, this big company. At that moment, I mean, in the beginning, I still remember myself, many corporates in Lithuania, Baltics, were looking like, okay, no, sustainability, it's not for us. I mean, it will come and it will go away soon. But, we're talking as a bank with them, and we saw it coming little by little. And we did even few kind of, I remember, different kind of decisions based on this field. And we saw how margins of loans can differ. And that kind of affected a bit. So, when big corporates started to see that, we can't get such a good kind of loans anymore, we understood that, okay, we need to kind of think about it. And some of them understood that it's not only threat, but also opportunity. So by any means, and especially, in Lithuania, we saw, okay, the market is not taken, so let's do it. And I agree with Thomas that some of the companies, started to think about greenwashing as well. So we think, okay, and we had this kind of really big cases here in Lithuania of companies who did it. So, I mean, together with that one, so, I think it came due to, in the beginning, at least how I see it, came from financial sector. And from their regulations, and now it's even broader, because I mean it will be every sector will be regulated soon, and every company is talking about it. No one knows. It's like with innovation, like with banks happened with PSD2. I remember with open banking, no one knows, but everyone's talking about it. So with this buzz, I mean some activities are happening. And one more thing maybe to add here, it's also this green fund and green kind of line which is coming also from the European Union, and these talks that, it will be many, many initiatives. So, from one point of view, it will be some fines. From another point of view, it will be some kind of, money threat into that field. So, I guess that companies are looking at that angle. And, we are also opening or starting a new acceleration program together with Swedbank next year, sustainability topic as well. So we see also how companies are kind of, how companies want to join this topic, I would say, from that point of view. And we see, that this greenwashing will not happen anymore, because it was the first wave. Like, the first thing comes, usually, people are trying many different things, but now we are concentrating to the result. So this is the situation.
I think just to add on Arvydas, he mentioned some very good last point on that. I think it takes time for people to get smarter in this, to really be able to say, look, these guys, this is a lot of bullshit. These guys are for real, and hence I choose their product or consume their offering. I think that time will come. It will take some time. Now, I think it's much easier to fool the consumers that actually some corporates are doing good. I'm not saying all the corporates are not doing good. Some are doing fantastic initiatives and really are taking, sometimes have to take a hit to their P&L to be able to do this. But in actually probably more of the instances is, sustainability or committing to something doesn't mean that, there's going to be a financial loss associated with it. I think like in the case of BP, British Petroleum, they lost insane amount of market cap. And their customers and shareholders have been asking to really diversify much more to the renewable energy, which, given the battery prices, given the electricity prices, solar panel prices going down for the last 5-10 years, suddenly, the levelized cost of energy just becomes so much closer to the fossil fuels. In some countries, like in regions like Middle East, it is cheaper than fossil fuels. It's time has come.
Okay, we have 15 minutes, and I wanted to touch on 3 more topics. One, government, funding, and Baltics. So first one is governments. What are governments doing? And let's focus on governments in the Baltics, the ones that at the end of the day probably closer to right now. What are they doing? What can they do more to make sure that at least there is enough innovation and startups in the field? With both 3 of us investing in different stages, but what is the role of the government to make sure that at least this is happening, or that there is an incentive for this to happen?
If I can start, one of the things we really miss, and we can take a good example from another industry, I think it's a sandbox idea. So right now we really have quite a good area in fintech industry, and Lithuanian bank worked a lot for that, Finmin as well. And I remember this in the beginning of the summer when we had the project together with Balkan, Green Water Hackathon. So we tried to invite kind of governmental institutions as well there, and they accepted. But in the end of the day, when some solutions were offered, they didn't have any solution, any framework how to fit them, because we need to change sometimes even the kind of regulations and so on. So in that case, I would say if we had a sandbox where we can put these ideas, test them in the beginning, just to have proof points, just to see if it is a business case, just to see if we can scale, then of course definitely we can work for changing the regulations and so on. But in the beginning for startups, it's kind of hard, and it's very regulated area.
Yeah, definitely good points. I think there are some initiatives, some folks are trying to do it. There's this Mobility Innovation Center run by a few folks that, is trying to really what Arvydas is saying, or some part of it is to bring the Lithuanian Post, Lithuanian Railways, road administration together to really sort of help, sometimes act as a little sandbox for some of the startups, to really help the corporates understand how they can take that technology and put it through their internal pipes and really get to the decision makers and try something. I know Lithuanian Post done something with the city platforms and stuff like that. I'm not sure if that's gonna go anywhere, but at least they tried. So definitely governments play a very important role. I think for us, all of us, definitely funding of the venture capital funds or accelerators that I think are the best allocators of the capital into the technology and innovation at an early stage, for sure. So really being able to open that, and what Arvydas mentioned, there's a lot of funding and a lot of money coming from the Green Deal in Europe, so the politicians opening that, to really allocating it to the right initiatives, right folks who can again allocate that capital into the green infrastructure or innovation or early stage startups is super important. So I think it's sort of I'm always very liberal on that, and I think market will sort of fix itself if government sort of does what's in the interest of the market, and sometimes steps to the side, sometimes takes something very innovative, and it maybe pushes the regulation that maybe not all the countries have yet, and definitely there's stuff in clean energy that Lithuania still has to do a lot of work in. But we got a fantastic Ministry of Energy, and they did a lot of great things the last few years.
What did you see in the Baltic startups? How could we define the Baltic startup ecosystem in the sustainability, climate, energy, food? So in the kind of larger view, Thomas, you have a more, let's say, narrow view, but probably more specialized. Albeit you're looking at bigger. How is the Baltic scene from the startup point of view right now? And in a way, evolution of the last 18 months, what have you seen changing in a way, right?
Yeah, I'll start. So I think Baltic ecosystem is interesting. I think we still got Estonia, who's been able to produce a fantastic number of unicorns, TransferWise, Skype, Bolt, and many other great companies with a lot of funding from top investors from all over the world. I think Lithuania has some great successes over the last few years with Vinted, folks at Testonet, and many other companies. I think as you mentioned, fintech has been a great initiative that required a push from Lithuanian Bank and Finance Ministry. So we actually, and I think it was one of the impetus for folks coming here to get the license or set up the operation, is that the regulation, which is as hard in fintech is as hard as is in energy and mobility spaces. And we have some folks like Trafi who, if you look at a bit more detail, they're definitely optimizing the way people move, and they have an opportunity to move them to the more sustainable modes of transport, like bikes or electric scooters, away from gas fueled vehicles. So they definitely have a power to do this, I think. And we invested in a number of companies in Lithuania in solar space or EV charging space, in EV charging infrastructure space. We just made an investment 3 months ago. So there's I think it's hard to top. It will be hard to top fintech and anytime soon, at least in Lithuania. But there's definitely positive signs towards this, and there's been some initiatives like EIT, InnoEnergy, providing money to very early stage startups and accelerators in this space with some very much needed funding, as well as I know you guys running the sustainability track. So again, that really pushes folks to see, oh, hey, actually there is money in this, or there's an opportunity, not money, there's opportunity in this. So maybe I can do something. Maybe I don't need to be another fintech founder, but I can do something else. So it's super important to do that at pre-seed and seed stages, because that's where it's hardest to start anything.
Arvydas?
I see Baltics as a good playground for startups, and actually, especially B2B startups. And I'm super happy. I would say that Cristobal, you with StartupWise guys came here, and Ignitis have a fund, and Thomas helping with Contravi and Sven as well. So actually, and we have a few more kind of players here, us as well, maybe in early stage. So I think that we have lots of kind of power to accelerate these startups, and we still have few big kind of, not few even, I think, several quite a good players, B2B players, bigger corporates, who can kind of adjust startups and can take startup solutions for a test, for a drive, I would say, and help accelerate that. So, it's easier definitely if you're a B2B startup to do it with smaller corporate, or corporate subsidiary. Like if we take Scandinavian banks, Lithuanians are kind of we have all of them have some subsidiaries in Lithuania. If we talk about some bigger corporates, we also have some kind of subsidiaries in Lithuania. So it's easier to start here. And we also already saw some good kind of stories. Right now we are, for example, working also with Žalgiris and trying to match startups. And we have already one good actually story with Latvian startup who is also growing with help of Žalgiris. So I see it's a good playground and possibility for all Baltic countries to ground it actually, to have it even more, because we have lots of ecosystem players already. Yeah, Estonia, we're in front of them, but I guess that all countries can benefit of that, and we have few corporates. So, for me, it's this B2B is kind of playing as one of the main areas there.
Mm-hmm. Good. Just I think we mentioned a lot of lots of startups from the Baltics that can be role models or that can be interesting directions. What is the one thing, Thomas, you would like to see in the next 18 months that is still to happen, that can in a way change the playing field, at least in the region?
One thing to point out is hard. I think we need, what I've been super happy about Vinted's official sort of announcement of becoming a unicorn. Estonians had a bunch of success stories and bunch of folks being made multi-millionaires from TransferWise, Skype, and everyone else. In Lithuania, we didn't have it, I think, up to last year. So I think folks seeing those success stories, and one thing that would be great is we had a good legislation on the options. So people really can get the stock options that early employees, later employees can, get it in a tax incentivized way where they don't need.
Why is not happening? We've been talking, I was actually today even talking in Latvia, recommending to a startup to go to Estonia because it's the only place where it's ESOPs, ESPAs, right, at a bit.
Yeah.
So both governments, Latvia and Lithuania, have been talking for years. Why is not happening? Why is so difficult to get this right, which is a huge issue to spread the wealth when there is success, right?
Yeah, it's a huge issue. I can't answer. I think there's some, a lot of politics involved, maybe more important decision in some other people's heads, upcoming elections and so on. So, probably a few factors. I think everyone agrees it makes so much sense. As you said, first of all, you can distribute the wealth to many more people, and it will help to spread the equality of wealth, as well as really incentivize people to do things, take more risks, maybe not go to a comfortable job, but, take a risk when there's two passionate founders doing something. So I think, so one thing is really, if we could get this fixed as soon as possible, that would be great. And I just hope more unicorns pop up here. Maybe some folks like TeslaNet gonna do a fundraising route at some point in the future. I think a lot of more people would become officially very wealthy and would show that, there's, if you put in commitment and passion into something, can really be very successful in the field.
Mm-hmm. Arvidas?
I would also agree that I would love to see some few more exits, and out of that, I would love to see angel investors, becoming active. Actually, in Lithuania, we have few, but I would say that we still miss the angel investors who are successful founders and have successful exits. So usually, most of our angel investors are still wealthy people, but we never run a startup. We never kind of had an experience in that one, so that's why we can't afford the risk. We don't understand it, and that's kind of going to that way. So one of the success stories in Silicon Valley is that people are the successful founders with successful exits. They more and more angel investors are becoming available. So it means that more and more capital to early stage startups. And again, and that could be a big machine. So I would love to have it to see at least 5 kind of, maybe not unicorns, but at least close to unicorns exits in here, and to see how this angel investment kind of thing can roll up to a bigger thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I don't think we need the unicorns. We need exits, right? And I think 100 million exits, 50 million exits are also, I think, some of the unicorns will not exit.
Yeah.
Which just basically is the ESOPs that is providing potentially the wealth, right? But I think there's a lot of exits, M&A opportunities for early cash out of the founders also that will, and I think we're educating the market to give back. I don't have any doubt that actually is going to be different. That the case is just it has still to happen on a more scalable matter, right? But I think with 1,000+ startups and all the money that has been invested by VCs in the past 3-4 years, it's just a matter of time. Yeah. It just takes some more time. And I tend to think that COVID is showing that maybe some of our startups in the Baltics are even more resilient than they was in Western Europe because they can live with less cash. They are even in Baltics probably be less hit from the day to day, which they can be focused still on their businesses. So maybe this is providing an opportunity, right, on that direction. Okay, just wanted to parting words on both Thomas and Arvidas, and maybe we talk about what we want to happen, which is a good way. But any kind of prediction, last words, Thomas? Let Arvidas go first because he's usually building on you, so he can be more original if he wants to before I kind of do our final side. So Arvidas, any parting thoughts about how to get more climate startups at the end of the day? Because if we get more, at some point, all the other elements we will put together with investor mentors, networks. But how to get more and how to get more founders preoccupied about this?
I think that one of the easiest ways to work with is lots of social entrepreneurs from very beginning, and from very beginning talk about profit. So just forget kind of today's kind of perception of this kind of startups, because today lots of people are talking about that it's charity, it's grants, no profits, donation, whatever. So let's forget it. Let's talk about profits from day one, and let's say that profit is not a bad thing. So if you can be sustainable financially, then you can definitely be more sustainable also from other perspectives as well, and you can give much more to the planet as well. So that's my kind of vision.
Yep.
Yeah, Thomas? I think from parting thoughts from my side, which I really like and I really hope, is that someone said that the first trillionaire entrepreneur will be a green tech entrepreneur, and I think there's a lot of logic to it. Maybe it's going to be Elon Musk, maybe someone new that we don't even know yet. I think there's just so many areas to explore, including battery storage, renewables, software, artificial intelligence, to really help us understand the climate data, the food ecosystem, the way we construct the buildings and everything like that. And, there's challenges like one of the most important ones, how to keep the carbon in the ground. Someone's going to figure it out. And there's a golden opportunity for entrepreneurs to really do it and make money while doing that. So that's what I would like to finish with. Okay, well, thank you both. I think, again, call it climate startups. It was a difficult kind of grounded, but I think with three of us passionate about sustainability in our different areas, I actually agree with you. I'm looking forward to the first exit in the sustainability space in the region. And I think that will be a huge boost for people. Parting thoughts on my side, we are, as you mentioned, we're having our first sustainability program open, applications open for a month. And I would almost like to say, I want to create a lot of sustainable startups working on sustainability and becoming role models. So Arvidas, Thomas, thanks a lot for your time, for the insights. Looking forward to listen to the rest of the conference. And thank you. And let's keep impacting the region, because I think that's what we're all passionate about. So thank you to both of you. Thank you so much. Pleasure.